This replied to her, "Why should the noble and immortals will stoop to the petty works of transcendence? Freedom forgotten, and the eternal spark." She answered, "Straight I trample on the road, the strong hand choose for me, which planned our path. Freedom in this river-seated soul, large in life's limits, strong in matters not, building great stuff of action from the world to make fine wisdom from force scattered strength, and love and beauty out of war and night, the wage of wonderful, the game begun.
we'll see in this part, he's going to argue about the existence or the nature of divine truth, and whether that's something that actually exists.
Sole creator of its freer law, wanting a force behind on which it leans, a light above which none but thou hast seen. Thou claims the first fruits of truth's victory.
Thank you. Let's pause there. So Savitri has been arguing that she is a power of the divine, or the power of the divine, and that she is conscious of her reality. And here, Death is kind of referring to that when he says, whatever thy secret name, uttered in hidden conclaves of the gods. Yeah, like a special meeting. They also have that in the Vatican. They call these conclaves when the cardinals meet, and so it's an important meeting. He says, whoever thou might be, your ephemeral passion, you being a creature of earth, cannot break the iron rampart of accomplished things. So a rampart is the fortifications that are built around a fort, usually out of stone, but here he says iron rampart. So these are the defenses around the laws that with which God has built this world, with which the great gods fence their camp in space. So these are the laws governing the world. And then again, whoever thou art behind thy human mask, even if thou art the mother of the worlds, which she is claiming, and peggest, kind of stake thy claim upon the realms of chance. Yeah, so like to claim, to stake, to put in a stake, to make thy claim. We put it in simple terms, but we put in a stake in the ground, or a peg in the ground to mark our position. He says, even if thou makes thy claim, but upon the realms of chance, because she's in the world and everything is ephemeral here, the cosmic law is greater than thy will. And then he says, even God himself obeys the laws he made. The law abides and never can it change. So he's always put staked his own argument on the idea of the unchangeability of the law in the Vedic tradition, and in the original Savitri, death was also like the god of the dharma, of the law, ruling things. And then he says, the person is a bubble on time's sea. The person is just an ephemeral creature in time. But then he says there's a very interesting sentence that comes next. And again, he's kind of making a important admission or acknowledgement of Savitri and who she is. He says, a forerunner of a greater truth to come. Thy soul, creator of its freer law, vaunting a force behind on which it leans, a light above which none but thou hast seen. Thou claimest the first fruits of truth's victory. So he's sort of acknowledging that she might be a forerunner of a greater truth, a greater law that will be founded here. And he's saying, if you are this forerunner, and now you claim the first fruits of your victory, that first fruit being winning over Satyavan's soul, bringing him back from death. Vaunting, it's usually like boasting or, yeah. Here it's kind of claiming that she has this greater force from God on which she is leaning, and this light from above. And we can suppose this is referring to this supramental light, this supramental force, this new creation that she's bringing down. But now he's going to argue about the nature of truth as we continue in the next section. So we'll continue. Would you like to read? Yeah. Huh? Okay. So we're halfway down on page 654. So it begins, but what is truth? Line 479.
Truth, and who can find her form amid the specious images of sense, amid the crowding guises of the mind, and the dark ambiguities of the world, people with the incertitudes of thought. For where is truth, and when was her footfall heard? Amid the endless clamour of time's mart, and which is her voice amid the thousand cries that cross the listening brain and cheat the soul? Or is truth aught but a high starry name, or a vague and splendid word by which man's thought sanctions and consecrates his nature's choice, the hearts which donning knowledge as its robe, the cherished idea elect among the elect, thoughts favorite mid the children of half light, who high-voiced crowd the playgrounds of the mind, or people its dormitories in infant sleep. All things hang here between God's yes and no.
Thank you. Let's pause there. So death has been kind of admitting, acknowledging that perhaps she is the Divine Mother and that she has within her the light and power of a greater truth. But now he questions, but what is this truth? And more importantly, how can it be brought here on earth? Who can find her form amid the specious images of sense? Specious are false, but appearing as true. Amid the crowding guesses of the mind and the dark ambiguities of a world peopled with the incertitudes of thought. So here in the world, mind is our highest light, and mind is always in doubt. It cannot really know the truth. There's always 1,000 different aspects, different perspectives from which we can look at things. And how are we to determine in that situation what is truth? If everybody sees truth from a different angle, a different perspective, what is truth? And for us, for the mind, we depend on our senses to give us the information of the world and the things around and the realities, but our senses also are fallible. So this is the situation. Which is her voice, truth's voice, amid the 1,000 cries that cross the listening brain and cheat the soul? Our minds are like a marketplace of thoughts, all crowding in all different ideas. How are we to discern which of them is true or not? Or perhaps it's just a high, starry name, or a vague and splendid word by which man's thought sanctions and consecrates his nature's choice. So whatever our nature might choose, prefer, that we call truth. The heart's wish, donning knowledge as its robe. It's just our own preferences, and then we call that knowledge or truth. The cherished idea, elect among the elect. The preferred ideas by the elect of society. This we call truth. Those ideas that gain credibility among the higher ranks of society. Thought's favorite amid the children of half-light, who high-voiced crowd the playgrounds of the mind, or people its dormitories in infant sleep. And then this last line, he begins kind of another argument. All things hang here between God's yes and no. So he seems to be making an important distinction about perhaps there is some truth above, but how are we to perceive that truth here in the world with our minds, which cannot decipher truth from falsehood? Here all is mixed. So let's continue. Would you like to read?
Two powers real, but to each other untrue. Two consort stars in the moon night of mind, that towards two opposite horizons gaze. The white head and black tail of the mystic drake, the swift and the lame foot, wing strong, wing broken, sustaining the body of the uncertain world. A great surreal dragon in the skies, too dangerously thy high proud truth must live, entangled in matter's mortal littleness. All in this world is true, yet all is false. Its thoughts into an eternal cipher run, its deeds swell in time's rounded zero sum. Thus man, as once is animal and God, a disparate enigma of God's make, unable to free the Godhead's form within, a being less than himself, yet something more, the aspiring animal, the frustrate God, yet neither beast nor deity, but man tied to the kind earth's labor, strives to exceed, climbing the stairs of God to higher things.
Thank you. Let's pause. So he has been arguing that the mind cannot know the truth. It only sees from its limited perspectives. And each one of us has our own unique perspective. So it's impossible to discern truth in this situation. And here he begins to talk more fundamentally about kind of the dualities of mind, how if there is a truth, it's also balanced by a falsehood here. So he says there's two powers at work here in the world, real but to each other untrue. Two concert stars in the mooned night of mind, this kind of darkened, ignorant mind, that towards two opposite horizons gaze. So there's two fundamental aspects, two fundamental perspectives. Now he's talking about one looking towards truth, but the other anchored in the ignorance and inconscience of matter.
Each other and feel like each behind each other?
Yeah, irreconcilable. So one, there's perhaps a truth and a fundamental oneness, let's say. But this multiplicity then seems untrue, at least from the perspective of mind. Or from the perspective of matter, then spirit is untrue to it. Yeah, I'm going to go into that. So, the white head and black tail of the mystic drake. So a drake is a male duck or goose. And in the Vedic tradition, this Hamsa, the goose, is an important kind of symbol of the soul. And so I looked this up on... Huh? Yes. So it appears also, he puts it in the terms of that as well. But if you can kind of imagine a goose flying through the sky with its long neck and tail behind, black tail behind, white neck in front. So it can appear also like a dragon. So a surreal dragon, one that's kind of like something fantastic or like dreamlike. But let's look at this Hamsa. In Vedic, so this is my friend Chat GPT speaking here. In Vedic and post-Vedic lore, the Hamsa, often translated swan or wild goose, is far more than a bird. It becomes one of the most potent symbols of the soul, of luminous consciousness, and of the power that moves freely between worlds. Already in the Rig Veda, the Hamsa appears in a strikingly symbolic form. One famous verse speaks of the Hamsa moving in the bright heaven, in the midworld, and in the waters. And then it says, Sri Aurobindo glosses this as a figure of the solar consciousness that can inhabit all planes. And then it kind of paraphrases Sri Aurobindo, so these aren't really his words, but I don't know where he's taken from The Secret of the Veda. It's paraphrasing Sri Aurobindo. The Hamsa is the soul, the divine bird, the flamingo or swan of the upper air, who is also in the waters and in the midworld. It is the image of the consciousness of the conscious being who moves freely between the planes. And then it continues in later Vedic and Upanishadic symbolism. The Hamsa becomes one, the bird of the sun, linked with Surya and Savitri. Two, the traveling soul that can pass between heaven and earth. Three, the inner witness that abides in the heart and yet ranges in the infinite. The Upanishads deepen this symbolism. The Hamsha Upanishad, and the Hamsha Upanishad and Paramahamsha identify the Hamsha with the individual self that realizes its unity with the Supreme. Thus, the Hamsa becomes the emblem of the Jivatman, moving in the rhythms of life, the yogi who has crossed beyond bondage. And then by the time we reach classical and yogic tradition, Paramahamsa is the title of one who has transcended all limitation, one who lives in the world but belongs to the infinite. What is important for Savitri is that the Hamsha is not merely pure or beautiful, it is a traveler between planes, earth, midworld, heaven, waters, air, light. It unites the ascent and descent, the luminous and the obscure, the individual soul and the solar truth. In Vedic terms, the Hamsha is a living bridge between the worlds, just as Agni is a bridge in flame. So it gives us something kind of interesting, and it's brought out these different aspects of the higher truth and the embodied life of the world here with the white head and black tail of the mystic drake, the swift and lame foot, wing strong, wing broken, sustaining the body of the uncertain world, a great surreal dragon in the skies. So it's in this kind of mid-world, it's part representing thy high, proud truth must live entangled in matter's mortal littleness. We have the truth above and we have this mortality of life below. And reconciling these, that's the difficulty. All in this world is true, yet all is false. Its thoughts into an eternal cipher run, eternal zero, emptiness. Its deeds swell to time's rounded zero sum. Its truths are always canceled by its falsehoods. So the truth can never really live here, according to death. A disparate enigma of God's make. Disparate, having irreconcilable parts. Enigma, like a puzzle.
What did you say, sir?
A zero. So this is man, a disparate enigma of God's make, unable to free the Godhead's form within, a being less than himself, yet something more, the aspiring animal, the frustrate God, yet neither beast nor deity, but man. But man, tied to the kind, earth's labor strives to exceed, climbing the stairs of God to higher things. This is the enigma of our existence. We aspire towards truth, towards God, but we're tied down to our material and animal base. So we continue. Would you like to read? Sir? Objects.
Objects are seemings, and none knows the truth. Ideas are guesses of an ignorant God. Truth has no home in earth's irrational breast. Yet without reason, life is a tangle of dreams, but reason is poised above a dim abyss, and stands at last upon a plank of doubt. Eternal truth lives not with mortal man. Or if she dwells within thy mortal heart, show me the body of the living truth, or draw me the outline of her face, that I too may obey and worship her. Then will I give thee back thy Satyavan. But here are only facts and steel-bound law. This truth I know, that Satyavan is dead, and even thy sweetness cannot lure him back. No magic truth can bring the dead to life. No power of earth cancel the thing once done. No joy of the heart can last surviving death. No bliss persuade the past to live again. But life alone can solace the mute void and fill with thought the emptiness of time. Leave then thy dead, O Savitri, and live.
Thank you. Spot. So here Death continues his argument that we cannot know truth by the mind here in the world. Even objects are seemings, and none knows their truth. This is also something that science is telling us, that the objects that we see, they appear, but only energy moving in space. and that in the end, reason, our ideas, are just a kind of a guess. They're poised above a dim abyss. We don't know their truth, and stands at last upon a plank of doubt, like a plank of wood over this deep abyss. That's what our reason is. It's just a kind of a structure, very fragile, to create some semblance of truth or reality. But it's a plank of doubt. There's no certainty about it. And then he says, but if you have this truth, then show it to me, so that I too may obey and worship her. And then I'll give you back Satyavan. But he doesn't believe that she can do that. He says, here there's only facts and steel-bound laws. And when we're confronted with the finality of death, we feel something of those laws. How can we change that fact of death with our heart's longing or love? No magic truth can bring the dead to life. No power of earth cancel the thing once done. No joy of the heart can last surviving death. But then he says, but life can solace the mute void in which we live, and fill with thought the emptiness of time. With our thoughts, we can solace ourselves. So leave then thy dead, O Savitri, and live. So leave Satyavan behind and live. Enjoy your life. Get solace from the things that you can acquire in life. Now Savitri will reply, and here we have a quite extended perspective of her view of reality, of Sri Aurobindo's view of reality. And let's continue. Brian?
The woman answered to the mighty shade, and as she spoke, mortality disappeared. Her goddess self grew visible in her eyes. Light came, a dream of heaven, into her face. O death, thou too art God, and yet not he, but only his own black shadow on his path. As leaving the night, he takes the upward way, and drags with him its clinging, inconscient force. Of God unconscious, thou art the dark head. Of his ignorance, thou art the impenitent sign. Of its vast tenebrious womb, the natural child. On his immortality, the sinister bar.
All countries are aspects of God's face. The many are the innumerable one. The one carries the multitude in his breast. He is the impersonal, inscrutable soul. He is the one infinite person seeing his world. The silence bears the eternal's great dumb seal. His light inspires the eternal word. He is the immobile's deep and deathless hush, its white and signless, blank, negating calm. Yet stands the Creator Self, the Almighty Lord, and watches his will done by the forms of gods, and the desire that goads half-conscious man and the reluctant and unseeing night.
Thank you. Let's pause. It's interesting that as she begins to speak, this kind of divinity shines forth in her face and eyes. And perhaps that's like a preface of the words to come, of her reply that really embodying or expressing this divinity coming through her. And she begins by saying, "O death, thou too art God, and yet not he." So she identifies this oneness, reconciling this duality, and she identifies and kind of places death in that perspective of reconciliation, identifying him as God's own black shadow on his path, as leaving the night he takes the upward way and drags with him its clinging inconscient force. So he brings it in the perspective of this evolution from inconscience towards manifest divinity, and that he represents that dark end of existence, the inconscience, Of God unconscious, thou art the dark head. Of his ignorance, thou art the impenitent sign. Impenitent, he's not sorry for who he is, does not want to change who he is. Of its vast tenebrous womb, the natural child. That womb, that dark womb from which all arises in existence. He's the natural child. And on his immortality, the sinister bar. So he tries to stop that advance to immortality. All contraries are aspects of God's face. And then the many are the innumerable one. The one carries the multitude in his breast. Again, reconciling this division between spirit and matter, between the one and the many. And then he describes as different aspects of the divine. He is the impersonal, inscrutable soul. He is the one infinite person seeing his world. So he identifies him both with the impersonal reality, existence, and the person, a divine person, viewing his creation, his world. The silence bears the Eternal's great dumb seal. His light inspires the eternal word. He is both the silence, the eternal silence, underlying all the movement and sound and word and lights of existence. He is both. He is the immobile's deep and deathless hush. Its white and signless blank negating calm. Even that emptiness, the void of the Buddha or of the Vedantin, yet stands the Creator's self, the Almighty Lord, who rules over his creation and watches his will done by the forms of gods. Suggests all in this world carries out the will of God. And it gives a reality to the gods who work out his will in the world. And he is also the desire that goads half-conscious man and the reluctant and unseeing night. So God is all of these at once. So let's One more, continue.
Those wide divine extremes, those
No,
universe,
excuse me.
those wide divine extreme,
These wide divine extremes, yeah.
those universe power at the right and left side of the body of God. Existence balance twixt to mighty arms, conform the mind with unsolved obage of thought. Darkness below, a fathomless light above. In light are joined but sundered by serving mind. Stand face to face, opposite, inseparable. True countries needed for his great world task. Two poles whose current wake up immense world force in the stupendous secrecy of itself. Above the world, budding with equal wings, he is both in one, beginningless without end, transcend both, he entered the absolute. His being is mystery behind mind, his way bewilder mortal ignorance, the finity in its little sanction parquet. Homage, credit not God, actuality, who dared to be unimaginable, and see and act as a mighty one infinity.
Thank you. So again, Sri Aurobindo elaborates on this reconciliation of these dualities of spirit and matter, truth and falsehood. He says these wide divine extremes, these inverse powers, are the right and left side of the body of God. So they're united in the divine, existence balanced twixt two mighty arms, confronts the mind with unsolved abysms of thought. Although they're reconciled in the divine, for us, looking at it from the perspective of mind, they seem irreconcilable. Darkness below, a fathomless light above. We see this division. But in light, they are joined. In the supreme above, these dualities are reconciled, but sundered by severing mind. We can't reconcile them with our mind. For us, they stand face to face, opposite, but yet inseparable. Somehow we can't get away from one pole or the other. Two contraries needed for his great world task. Two poles whose currents wake the immense world force. this interaction between the two, between the inconscious and the superconscious above, their interaction wakes the world force, this evolving force that moves from the pole of darkness and inconscience to the light. This evolving force. And then again, he looks at it from the perspective of the truth above, in the stupendous secrecy of the self, of his self, above the world, brooding with equal wings. He is both in one, beginningless, without end. He reconciles these two aspects, and then transcending both, he enters the absolute. His being is a mystery beyond mind. His ways bewilder mortal ignorance. The finite in its little sections parked, amazed, credits not God's audacity, his boldness and disregard for conventional thought or restrictions, who dares to be the unimagined all and see and act as might one infinite, reconciling the many and the one.
So the thing is,
He, where? His?
he is both in one, beginningless without end. He is being as a mystery. So who's the he? The creator self, the Almighty God?
Yeah, the supreme, I suppose. He is both in one. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think the supreme, in the stupendous secrecy of his self. I mean, it begins the right and left side of the body of God. I guess it is God or the absolute. Yeah. Right. So it's the absolute, you know. Right. We, yeah, mind. Mm. God. Mm. And Sri Aurobindo often uses this word God as the Brahman or the absolute. Mm. Who dares to be the unimagined all and see and act as might one infinite. All is he. Hmm? Elaborate. I'm not sure what you're saying.
Because our authority, this is what's going to bring down. It's going to melt into the light. So the light is coming out of our
Mm. Mm.
He's going into the whole of it.
Yeah.
I think I would say he's trying to explain what that means.
Mm.
So what you're saying is you embody your full body, then you can overcome not in the sense of destroying death, but it's part of life, but it is not life. It's not the it is just, all these things. It is the one and many at the same time. So that's the hard part for us.
Yeah.
Yes. And what she's saying, that's where she's going. And that's going to unhinge him. Because he can't stand up with this law stuff anymore. The reality is like he thinks. It's not like he thinks, it's like what she was saying. But he has to be convinced. He only gets convinced when he feels power and meaning.
When he's confronted with that power.
The light of the love.
Yeah.
So he is now melting on it.
So, yes. So that divinity is that truth that she's expressing. It's beginning to pour out of her being.
Because he said to her, show me the form.
Right.
She is the form.
Okay, so thank you. I think that's it for today. We have a little music.
Death replied to her, "Why should the noble and immortal will stoop to the petty works of transcendence? Freedom forgotten, and the eternal spark." She answered, "Straight I trample on the road, the strong hand choose for me, which planned our path. Freedom in this with ever seeking soul. Large in life's limits, strong in matters not, building great stuff of action from the world to make fine wisdom from force scattered strength, and love and beauty out of war and night, the wage of wonderful, the game begun.